So now it's time to introduce an ethical challenge. This is the basis of the assignment, the discussion assignment I'm going to put on Canvas and have you answer for part of your discussion grade in this class. The ethical challenge is, should we use animals in experiments to learn about behavioral neuroscience? So we're here in a class about behavioral neuroscience. Any number of times I've pointed out this information was, how this works was first discovered in a cat, a rat, a mouse, monkeys. We know that these animals have been used in experiments. Should this be the case? Should animals be used for these types of experiments? So your initial reaction is going to likely be one of these three. Yes, no, not sure. So if you answered you weren't sure, then it might be a good place to stop and examine biases and assumptions. So your own biases, maybe the biases of others that have been trying to influence you, the biases in the textbook, etc. So examine these biases and assumptions if you're not sure. That's the first good starting point if you answered, I'm not sure. If you answered yes or no, then you also should examine your biases and assumptions. Because if you're one of those quick decision makers, now in business, that's considered a valuable skill and trait. Just make a quick decision. Or sometimes in business, you're supposed to analyze things endlessly. So there's two ends to that. There's some good middle ground where you make a reasoned consideration of the facts or of your opinion, of your moral compass. And so if you're quick to come to a yes or no answer, it is still maybe even especially super important that you examine your biases and assumptions. Because there's probably some biases and assumptions in there that led you to make your decision. But it's really important to be explicit about what's guiding your decision making. Don't just say yes and I don't have to think about it anymore and I'm done. That's not an ethically well-reasoned argument. Everybody gets to make their own decisions in life. Hopefully we'll embed some ethics in our decision making, and these are ethics that are guided by your own moral compass, so you get to decide. But hopefully you're mindful about the decisions you make, especially when they can involve harm, endanger others, or even perhaps disrespect others. Then once you've done this consideration, then hopefully from this level of consideration, you can identify your guiding beliefs that are leading you to answer how you answer. And you might identify conflicting beliefs. The whole typical point of an ethical dilemma is it brings into competition two of your deeply held beliefs. They're your beliefs. And so you might have to wrestle with those and say, gosh, on one hand I believe this, on the other hand I believe that. That brings me into conflict with myself. So that's what an ethical dilemma is. So it's helpful to recognize these, just be explicit about them. And that's part of your ethical decision-making process is what are my beliefs and are any of them in conflict in trying to answer an ethically challenging question like this. And then it's helpful also to identify situational constraints. This is super important in science. You're working in a lab, the lab manager tells you just ignore that data set. We don't have time to analyze it. We'll just write the paper on it. Okay, you're suddenly in perhaps an ethical dilemma. This person's your boss. They pay your paycheck, perhaps. And so, or they have some sort of influence over you. So you may have situational constraints that are causing you to be in an ethical dilemma. It's helpful to kind of rise above that, have a little meta-analysis of how you think, have an awareness of your own awareness to realize this could be biasing me. At least I can be explicit about the fact that it's biasing me. I might have to decide in a way that isn't optimal, but at least I'm aware that it's biasing me. All of this question, it's not about the final answer you come up with. It's about your process, working your way through these challenges and hopefully you'll make your best decision once you've gone through the process. But it's not just like, yes, the answer is yes. I know it's yes, because that's just in my gut what I believe. In your gut is embedded some sort of beliefs, and to be explicit about those is really important.